didn't really even know it as I was writing it until I was like in it. I was like, oh, that's kind of the tone I've been going for this whole time within this movie. So, yeah, like something like The Ring or something like that's definitely it. It's in there.
Hello, my ghoulish guests, and welcome to another wonderful, top-notch episode of the Scary Movie Project, the podcast where we talk about what else? Scary movies. I am your host, as always, Matt, and today we're going to talk about haunted houses, cursed video cameras, multiple things. I'll just tell you guys that after mysteriously inheriting her parents' house, a lifelong orphan finds a camcorder and a collection of videotapes. That would be fun, maybe not, containing the gruesome secrets of her family's past and the horrifying truth behind the camcorder they were captured on. Brand new 2026 here, film called Capture. Okay, this is a fun movie that I watched recently that came to my attention, and as always, we have wonderful people on our show. Why not bring the director of this film? Bruce Wemple is here. Bruce, thank you for coming on the show. I hope you are excited for us to talk about your film.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me. This will be fun.
Great, wonderful. So 2026 Capture. This was just released in March, right on video
Yep.
on demand. Okay,
Yeah,
and we
March.
can
March
we
15th.
can
Yeah.
watch that on Amazon or probably Apple TV. I think right now, I believe, is the two
Yep.
platforms.
Yeah, all
Okay,
those for rent platforms
we will
should be there.
plug that as well. So this movie's interesting, right? It starts off couple in the woods. They're kind of wandering the woods. They find an abandoned house and this great shot of a woman looking up and seeing a camcorder, and it was back and forth and back, and then we see her and her eyes have glazed over, and I'm already thinking about The Beyond.
Yeah.
That made me think of Fulci's The Beyond with the eyes, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm in. Let's go. So we jump ahead. Woman wakes up, kind of promiscuous, perhaps. Her phone's ringing. Her brother-in-law calls. She's at a house. Guy leaves. Her sister calls and finds out she's basically crashing at her sister's place, right? You got to go. You got to get out of here. You've come into a home you've inherited. She's an orphan. So she finds
Yeah,
out
they're
her
all
parents,
foster siblings. Yeah.
right? All
Yeah.
foster sibling. Finds out her parents actually had a home and she has now inherited this house and it's upstate, as they say. She takes off. She goes to find it. Things don't start off well because she gets off the train and there's no one around the train station. I love that, just nothing, total spooky, empty train station. And she makes it up to some restaurant, some bar, and the locals are not very nice. Like, hey, can I get a cab? No, you should probably get on the train and maybe just go get out of here. And you're like, okay, not wanted. And she ends up getting a ride from, I guess, what is it, the bartender?
Uh,
And right, I think.
yep,
And
exactly.
takes her to the house. The house, of course, is cue the spooky old haunted manor, which we love. And she finds a camera and some tapes, and things just kind of begin to get strange. And she watches old tapes, and I guess she knows that it's her mother and her father, and they lived here. And her mom was, I guess, a psychiatrist and had patients at the house. And the father was sick or ill. We don't really know what was going on with him. But things start to really, and she kind of gets friendly with the bartender, and she goes back to the restaurant, and they're like, you need to get out of here. We don't want you here. And things start to get weird, and she's not wanted. And we find out more. Oh, well, your mother was a witch, and she burned everyone in the house, and like there's a grave out back, and you're like, oh my God. And she finds tapes of people like in demonic possession and just all these. Like, I love to find old tapes. I wouldn't want to find those old tapes. Those are not the tapes I want to find. And people start coming over, and the dude spends the night, and he messes with the camera, and the camera kills him essentially. And it's like really weird what's happening. Then his sister shows up and says, well, I can't find my brother. And she sees his hat laying on the table, and she's like, wait a minute. But she never says it. So you don't really know what's going on, and things are just very strange. And she realizes she can see things through the camera too, so she can actually pick up the camera and look through it, and she sees figures and people moving around only through that camera, and she follows them through the house. And like you're really kind of, it's this haunted house, but then kind of found footage and a lot of slow burn kind of things going on. And her brother-in-law he's a private investigator, and he now starts to basically find out. Done some research, and he gives her a call near the end. Says, "Listen, your parents, your dad is still in this asylum, I guess, and he wasn't killed. like you got to get out of here. And that person gets in the house then, I guess, right? And eventually takes her down to the basement, right? I believe it is near the end. Was that the final scene there?
So she goes down, she follows with the camera. The camera's acting as like a viewfinder for
Yes.
this. Yeah. And yeah, the lead character ends up down in the basement and finds all the bodies down there.
Yes.
And then ultimately runs into her dad, who's been responsible for a lot of the stuff going on. And then her dad kind of takes her captive and
Back up in the attic where the camera is, right?
exactly, along with her brother who tried to come save her, and he
Yep.
gets captured, and yeah, it ends up kind of like a final standoff where she ultimately turns the camera on her dad, kills her
Yes.
dad, and the camera falls over and gets the her and her brother end up on camera, but and where it's hinted at that maybe they're okay until later on the final scene where we realize that at that moment they actually died, and we our final shot is the two main characters with their faces ripped off like the rest of them, and they are living inside this camera world.
I loved that end because yeah, we thought it was the hero moment. And, oh, wait, no, not quite. There, it didn't make it. Yes, so that was great. Yeah, there you go. There's your elevator pitch. 2 minute synopsis of it. But obviously, let's get much deeper. So tell me, like I said, I think there's a lot of things. I felt like I'm watching the Beyond with like the scene with the eyes at the beginning. Found footage. Okay, I mean Blair Witch Project is one of my favorite films of all time. A haunted house film. You've got a lot of cool pieces that fit into this, and it's a little bit of a slow burn too. And you feel like you know what's going to happen, but you really don't know. I didn't know. I thought I knew, but then I kind of was surprised by a lot of it. And the whole idea of like the camera as like this, antagonist, like as this character, right? So tell me where this idea for this film, where did the genesis, right? Where did that come from?
So I think there's like two parts to that answer. The first part is just a weird thing that happened while I was shooting a movie called The North Witch a couple years ago.
Hmm.
And we shot at a cabin kind of somewhere in the middle of nowhere in the winter. It was really cold, so we were kind of huddled in this cabin. And it was just a creepy cabin. It was just generally, even being there shooting there was creepy, but didn't think anything of it. I mean, for example, in this cabin, we moved the couch and like realized there's a trap door under the couch, and there was like
Evil Dead.
it was kind of like a cave underneath. I'm not
Yeah.
sure what the purpose of it was, but it just looked like a big hole
Wow.
filled with rocks and concrete and led to nothing. It was just that was it. So very odd.
Yeah.
But while I was editing the movie, sir, I would be, this kind of my editing suite would be dark, and I had my headphones on, and I would just be editing, and all of a sudden, certain takes, the footage would just go distorted and have a really loud, like, distortion sound effect that would hit my ears, and it just scare the bejesus out of me. It was just, like, it was just
Oh
a
man.
jump scare from my own footage
Yeah, yeah.
of a movie, and it happened a few times. It's never happened again. And we shot a different movie not too long after, same camera, same everything. All the footage is fine. So no idea what actually happened. Again, there was a take of everything in there, so it didn't affect the final movie or anything. But it just was scary once you hit it and didn't expect it.
Mm.
So no idea what happened, but I did realize like how scary footage is. Like if you're alone watching footage and something goes wrong, like it really is scary. Like if you're watching a movie alone and the movie does something that feels not quite right, it's so that was part of it. I was like, okay, that really scares me. And I always put movies like two different kinds of scary movies. There's scary movies that I love, but they're, maybe a slasher movie, something that I love, they're super entertaining, but they don't keep me up at night. There's not that's it's not and then there's the horror
Mhm.
movies that get under my skin.
Yeah.
And so I definitely wanted to lean more to the latter. And so I started like thinking about the idea and everything. And then for some reason I just got like attached to like that era of like early 2000s horror movies. It was probably also because I was like when I first got into horror movies, when I first started going to the movie theaters alone, but it was also the era where they were remaking a lot of
Oh
Japanese
yeah.
horror movies into American horror movies.
Sure, The Ring and
The
yeah.
Ring,
Grudge.
One Miss Called Dark Water Pulse, all those movies,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so didn't really even know it as I was writing it until I was like in it. I was like, oh, that's kind of the tone I've been going for this whole time within this movie. So Yeah, like something like The Ring or something like that's definitely it, it's in there. And
Okay.
yeah, so like that in terms of like a tone and how we were shooting, I definitely tried to push the whole crew to be like, we're making it's a haunted object movie, but we're making really a haunted house movie.
Okay.
So something, whether it's those movies or even like, a Conjuring movie or The Innocents or, the original
Hmm.
Haunting, something like that. Yeah, and that was the genesis right there.
Okay. That's cool. So yeah, a lot of different ideas came from it. So how long then were you now? Did you write this as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's your process? How did that go? How did the pen hit the paper or the finger hit the keyboard, and how did that all start to write this then?
I would say my writing process is probably 80 to 90% outlining. Like
Hmm.
I'll just start writing like what I think would be the cool story, what I think could happen, and then I'll just keep editing that over and over and over and over again. And I don't touch, final draft or anything like that in terms of like actual writing the screenplay until I have shared the outline. I've gotten notes from my trusted sources on the outline. Done all of that stuff because it's just I feel anyway like once I start writing, it's a much harder ship to steer. Like if you write it and you're like, oh, this direction isn't working, you can kind of feel anyway. From my previous experiences, like you can kind of feel when something shifted mid screenplay, but like
Mm.
there's still remnants of earlier drafts within the screenplay, and it gets much harder that way. So like I like to and it's also much easier to, for me anyway, share a outline with someone and get them to read what might be a 10-page outline instead of, bugging someone to read your 90-page screenplay.
Yeah.
Um, so I can get a lot of notes. I can get a lot of good feedback that way. So I'll outline for a while.
Mm.
So that was most of the process. And I that by the finished outline, there was not much, maybe one thing that from outline that didn't make it to the screen or at least to the final cut. But for the most part, yeah, what's on the screen is from that original outline. It was just after that it's fleshing everything out and seeing how we're gonna do it, what the characters are gonna speak like, everything like that. So yeah, that's most of the writing process for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always like to ask people what their process for each of these, what's your edit process, that's always so interesting to see. Do you storyboard, do this or that, right? So you are a New York guy here. This is, Western New York, upstate New York, the term, right? That's the term we like to use.
So yeah, Western's more like Buffalo. We're
Yeah,
like
that's true. You're
directly north from New York City is kind
upstate New
of
York. And then that's like a real term. It's a real thing, right?
yeah,
People,
yeah.
use that. So does that, I'd like to know the house, of course. Um, how much does that part of the state play into? Is that a big character for you? And how did you find these places to shoot um, this film?
So yeah, I mean I spent several years in New York City and it's cool. And then like I just yeah, around, a little before COVID, ended up like a lot of people moving somewhere else.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think initially when I got out of the city, I think like a lot of other people were like, all right, once COVID's over, I'll go back or something like that. And then once I got here, like the
No.
industry has changed. Like I'm living in my house with a kid and my wife and a dog, and it's like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not going back to Brooklyn at this point. But also the industry's different where it's like you don't really need to be there full time anymore.
Hmm.
Like what's nice about, you go somewhere where the overhead's lower, especially, you get kind of more freedom to make movies and not, worry as much. When I was in Brooklyn, like you're spending so much just to live there, just for rent, everything that like you can't just, go make a budget movie and keep everything afloat as much as you can somewhere or other places. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was how I got here. And then, yeah, initially we did a lot of movies, out in the woods. That was, and,
Movies in the woods are great. Yes. Some of
yeah, I
my,
mean,
my favorite films are movies in the woods.
oh yeah. No, we, my first like micro I did a couple movies. I worked for some companies. We did either training films and then I collaborated with a guy there and did this one movie. But I would say like my first movie of like a micro budget, like let's just go out and shoot a movie in the woods, was a movie called Lake Artifact. And it was like a nothing crew. We shot it in a few days and it was a blast. So it made me realize like, okay, you don't need everything that you necessarily always think you need to make a movie. I mean, there's pros and cons to everything, but make a movie the best way you can make a movie. And at that point, since we had no resources, like, all right, let's get as many blood gags together as we know how to
Mm.
do and go out in the woods. I'll shoot it. My composer was also running the sound for me, and we just went out with our friends who were actors, and just made the movie. And so that was kind of like the foundation for like, okay, we'll build from there, but always remember like that feeling of being just with your friends making a movie and feel like I just there's something about that. Um, then I made a movie called Monstrous after that, which it's a Bigfoot movie. And that was the first time we got connected to a sales agent that was like, oh, if you want to make more horror movies like this, the creature features, I can get you more
Mm.
financing to make
Nice.
these.
Creature features, yes.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the first time anyone's like actually offered us money to make a movie. It wasn't a lot of money by any means, but it was
It's
something
hey,
that
it's money.
something. Yeah,
It's money. You're
exactly.
right.
So we're like,
You're
we
right.
can actually pay each other and go and pay for
How
food
about that?
and
Isn't that
all this
something?
stuff.
I
Yeah.
know.
So, yeah, and that was all in upstate New York, all of it. So, yeah, and then so Montrose again, like are all kind of cabin in the woods, mostly in the woods. So you're like, yeah, a lot of those, like we'll have that one location and then a lot of wooded horror stuff happening around it. So that's what Upstate has to offer. For this movie, we got just super lucky because I was just looking for a house that kind of checked these boxes. And it's a not an easy house to find.
Mm.
Something that's big with the high ceilings that has that, you know, spooky, especially the exterior that has that like
Yeah.
feeling to it. And when we did find it, we got the owner of it was super supportive. She'd ask us, you know, what kind of movie are you making? And not necessarily because she owned it, more because she was just a fan and wanted to know more about the movie we were
Yeah.
making.
Yeah.
And it had the basement with the hanging insulation,
Right.
and you know, it had the middle, the high ceilings that we could kind of clear out and make it feel like it hadn't been touched in a while. It had certain rooms were kind of under renovation, and we got to use those. And so yeah, that was just, you know, it was we looked at a lot of houses before we got there, but the fact we found that house was very lucky. And yeah, I mean, my opinion for these micro budget horror movies or low budget, whatever you want to call it, the if you can find a location that rocks, like you're
Mm-hmm.
so far ahead of the curve on that. So yeah.
Now, did you exteriors and interiors, everything was in that house then? Everything was
For
shot?
everything that's supposed to be at the house is at the house. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really you got everything you wanted. So we talk about scouting. I love to drive around and scout like before I want to like shoot, my stuff. Do you like to do what's your good question? What's your favorite? Do you like scouting? What do you like the most when you're doing like pre-production stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like scouting. I'm not a giant storyboard guy.
Okay.
I'll shot list, definitely shot list, so the
Okay.
AD it can at least figure out what is
Hmm.
required. But I also really like, you know, getting there with the actors and working things out a little bit. Like I love the blocking stage. That's not necessarily pre-pro, but that blocking stage before shooting and using
Yeah.
that before the gaffer or whoever starts doing anything. Like really just get the actors and everyone be like, this is the best version of this sequence. Now let's start lighting it and figuring out what we're gonna do next. But like just making sure that part's done. In terms of pre-production, yeah, scouting's great. Casting's fun, stressful. It's all stressful. It's all really
Hmm.
stressful once
Yeah,
you're in
it
that.
is. There's a lot to do.
Yeah, but casting when you find the right person is a great feeling. It's hard when you're getting to like, you know, the 11th hour and you don't know who's going to play some character that or you're waiting for a response or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean it's all stressful until you get those wins, and once you get those wins, it's like the best feeling, I guess. The once you find, you know, you can't find the house, then you find the house and you lock it in, and it's like that is a feeling that, you know, doesn't get old.
That's great. So talking about cast, your character of Abby, she's our main. She's pretty much she's not her only character, but she's is the main person in this film. How long did you know who this character was going to be? Did you know that before you started? Did it come to you as you were writing it? And then how hard was it to find her to do that to find this actress?
So that was again lucky, but a couple years before that, I did a movie called The Hangman, and we were looking for this like old man role, and she submitted for it, and I'm not sure why we ended up. doing an audition with her because
Okay.
obviously she was wrong for the role, but she was so good that we're like, all right, maybe we can rewrite something else and get her in there. We got her in there, and then she was also in the North Witch, which we did a couple years ago, and she was and that one I really realized like how committed she will be when you like
Okay.
give her something to do and she will just like go all in on that. So when it came, I started outlining even this movie. I shared with her the outline, asked if she wanted to do it, like well before. We didn't even have a green light from anyone. Like there was
Wow.
nothing said. It was just, do you want to do this? Help me too, because like once she said yes and she fully committed herself to doing this role, we had talked about it so much already. By the time we were on set, we were making the same movie, and there were tweaks here and there, but we were really on the same page, which is great to have a partner like that. Once you're there,
Mm.
she's in every scene, so like
Yeah.
it's if I and I didn't. It was great. Like yeah, she knocks it out of the park, and she yeah, I have nothing but nice things to say about working with her for this movie. It was awesome.
So you've had her before, so it's kind of your Tarantino and she's Uma Thurman a little bit for you. So right, kind
A
of
little bit, I guess.
kind of thing there.
Yeah.
So okay, that's great. So everything else you shot around then, is that all? I mean, so much is in the house, but like the restaurant and things like that, was that all local stuff? Oh, tell me about that train scene when she gets dropped off at empty train station. I love that.
So yeah, the we that actually was like a kind of run and gun guerrilla thing. The we knew we wanted a train thing, and it was kind of being like we had the aerial shot of the train already, and so we knew there was probably a
Yeah, that
part
was
of the
nice.
edit where we don't need her at the train station. I wanted it, but it was like we can't. We tried. We can't book like reserve a train station or do anything like that. So we're like, best we can do, Kaitlyn, you and me, let's get up really early, get to the train station, see what we can get.
No one there, yeah.
We did exactly that. We pulled up to the train station and it was empty, like
Perfect.
completely empty. So like
Perfect.
amazing. So we spent an hour just getting every shot we could have asked for. Um, yeah, and yeah, like we did not, it was one of those things like if it's full of people, if like even there's like a dozen, it's not gonna feel right. It's not, it's there's gonna be something off. So yeah, we just that was and got up at 5 a.m. Got I
Mm.
think one of the first trains there and jumped off and didn't know what to expect. And yeah, that was but yeah, no, and then the bar was a place in Albany, which is about an hour north. That was actually our first day of shooting was the
Okay.
bar.
Okay.
We tried, like most probably, try to get our other locations knocked out before we move on to the house because then we can just stay at the house and finish it. But that was at a bar called Madison Poorhouse in Albany. The yeah, they were nice to work with. It's always, weird your first day trying to jump into the middle of a movie and figure out what it is, but
Of course.
it all was relatively simple. And then we shot at her New York City apartment, which is in Hudson, New York, which is
Oh, the apartment.
Hudson's
Yeah, that's right.
yeah, Hudson's kind of turned into like the really expensive Brooklyn, but just outside of New York place right now. It's like $1 million apartments, that kind of thing. When you go a little further north and upstate,
Yeah.
it becomes more rural and normalizes a little bit. But that's why we were able to get this kind of pseudo swanky high loft apartment in there for her New York City apartment. And then yeah, so those are those two places. Because after that, we're at the house. What I tried to do then, the first day at the house, so Caitlin plays her
Did you
own
guys
mom.
live at the house? Did you guys stay at the house too
A
while
couple
you
of
were
I
shooting?
did, Caitlin
Okay.
did, and maybe one or other two other, and then we had two other Airbnbs locally for the
Okay.
rest of the group.
Okay.
But what ends up happening though is like people end up crashing on the couch at the main location if like we're stay
Sure.
up late watching. We watch a lot of horror movies on
Yeah.
set. We'll rap,
Nice.
we'll like grab a couple.
Inspiration and
We'll crack a couple beers and put on some movie that's somewhat related to what we're making, and we
right.
all talk. It's fun. It's a good time. But yeah, so people will end up crashing at the house sometimes anyway. But yeah, with a couple other Airbnbs. But what I tried to do is so Caitlin also plays her mom in the movie in
Okay.
all the videotapes. I tried to spend that first day gathering all of the footage for the tapes that she's going to watch.
Okay.
So once we clicked into when she was playing Abby at the house, she was actually reacting to the tapes live time. So it wasn't the case of like we had to
Mm-hmm.
corner pin it after, or like, she had to pretend to see whatever she was actually able
Right.
to shoot it, and we were actually able to shoot what she's
That's
seeing
great.
in that time. So that first day, and then also she was able to stay one character one day and then get say goodbye to that character and be Abby for the rest of the shoot.
Okay, cool. I like that a lot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So then I segue into, I mean, I'm all about tech and gear and cameras, and so that it moves me into. I was gonna ask. I did ask. Yeah, did you guys stay there? So did you need how long? How many days were in that house to shoot? How long were you guys there?
We were there for 10 days or
10
so.
days. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And you had everything you needed there. Okay. So then here's the question is tell me gear. So what did you shoot this on? What were your light setups? What was your audio? Give me everything you got. I want to know. Oh, and the biggest question I gotta know, I couldn't tell. Maybe I just missed it. What was that old camera? Because I've got an old Sony High 8 in my closet here in my office that I keep. You never know when you're not going to need it for something. So also tell us. My guess is it was a Samsung camera, but I have no idea.
It was a Sony.
It was a Sony. Okay, all
It
right.
was a Sony. That took forever to find because it had to have come out around 95. And 95, and we
Yes.
also wanted to be mini DV tapes.
Oh, is it mini DV? Okay.
Well, because there's such a specific thing about the mini DV tape and those cameras and the viewfinder that I wanted, where
Okay.
the footage was getting fully interpolated. So you look at it and it has this digital signal coming into the viewfinder, and then it saves onto the mini DV tapes. So she finds the box of mini DV tapes.
I didn't even notice they were mini DV. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so and they had just started making it. So it was like there was only like a 1 or 2 year window where the timeline actually worked out for the movie, where it would have been 30 years ago
All
and
right.
um been the right camera. So yeah, we did research. I cannot remember the model of the camera, and it doesn't exist anymore because we actually burned the camera at the
Did
end.
you really?
That was our I think it might have been our martini shot or close to
You
it.
got to do it. You got to do it.
Was the camera on fire? We
Yep.
only had one, so we're like, let's hope we have all the
Oh my
footage we
God.
need.
Seriously. Wow.
So, but we when we got it, it had Sony right on it. It had a bunch of other stuff, and we just kind of beat the crap out of it. We took a
Hmm.
lighter to it, and so that melted the plastic around anything that logos that didn't look cool and scratched it up and stuff like that. So yeah, that was the camera. The thing I wanted to shoot the actual footage for the movie on those tapes.
Mm.
The problem, the camera worked fine. You can't find batteries for them anymore. Those batteries go bad. So
Yeah, I've got about two with mine just in case the one dies. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah. So I couldn't. So it had to be plugged in, and even plugged in, it was a little shaky how the
Mm.
power.
Wow.
So we ended up shooting those tapes. No, what we ended up actually doing to get that effect on it was we shot the tapes on our normal camera, like what should be on the tapes, and then ran it through like a VCR thing
Really?
into the tube TV, the old TV.
Okay, yeah.
And so the signal ended up looking pretty much the same as it normally would anyway, because it had to go through this like
That's
VCR into
cool.
composite
Yeah.
signal anything.
Analog signal again, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's what she's looking at when she looks. So I wanted to actually get it on the actual camera, but that was a no-go.
I
That
love
was
that. I love that.
um so that was that camera. We shot it on a Red Komodo.
Okay. Very nice.
Yep, I
Is it in 4K? Did you shoot it in 4K?
we shot in 6K.
Oh, nice. Okay.
We finished it in 4K, and I think it was mastered in 4K. I think depending on the platform, I think most of it's down to 2K. But
Yeah.
yeah, but the mastering was finished in 4K.
Beautiful.
So yeah, and yeah, I love the Komodo. I mean, again, I'm not I'm like I shot it, but I am never like any red. Like I always tell people, like whatever the red, as long as it's somewhat on the newer side of red, you're talking about like 3 or 4% differences one way or the other, depending on the
Mm.
sensor. Like it might be a sensor size thing or whatever, but I'm like, if you have a limited budget, don't waste your budget on getting like, unless you already have it, locked in. Like Komodo versus Dragon, Raptor, Raven, whatever you want
Right,
to call
right,
it, Gemini.
right.
There's a thousand other things that are going to make that image better. Like all of those sensors are more than good enough to do want to do as long as the lighting is there. And I'd always rather put that money into props or into
Sure.
costumes and whatever gore gags we have going on, all that. The camera only gets you so far. But like, I'm a big Red fan. I mean, we've shot like
Okay.
it's just Red is quick. Like he can really shoot fast on Red, which is great, and you
Okay.
can really slim down the package a lot. Like our package was pretty. I mean, we shot on those DZO film, the DZO Vespid
Okay.
lenses.
Okay.
Fan of those. They super sharp, but still have like kind of a character to them that I kind of like, and affordable. So yeah, those were our, and then we shot a
Did
little.
you rent all your lenses then, or
I have the camera, rented the lenses. Also, we
okay?
shot on some of the Canon FD vintage lenses that we own.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so a little bit shot on that. Yeah, so that was most, yeah,
Now, are you guys using a lot of actual natural light in that, like windows and stuff, and are you using like bounce boards, or are you using like our little HMIs? I mean, what are you doing with that?
yeah, depending on the room, yeah, like the main room, we tried to keep it as wide as possible. So we're definitely using window light. We might bounce it if we need to, because there's that big main room that the whole wall is just windows.
Hmm.
Luckily, it's actually pretty overcast the whole time. So, as long as we're
Yeah,
shooting the right time
looked
of day,
like
it
it.
wasn't too bad. And we're trying to do a bit of fall off on and with the contrast ratios. We're trying to keep it somewhat high. So that, and then, yeah, for most of the daytime stuff, we either bouncing it once in a while, depending in a couple rooms, we had to put up lights and stuff. And then we're
Yeah,
using mostly in that, the aperture, a lot of aperture package lights,
aperture.
the
Yeah, I've seen a lot of those. Are
300D,
nice.
yeah, 300D, 600D, those. Um, and like sometimes it's like we just need something to fill it in. So we're like throwing up the light on a C stand, the gaffer, and just like hitting up against the wall or ceiling or
Sure.
something like that,
Yep.
just for a little bit of fill on the other side if we
Sure.
need it. And
You
then at
mentioned
night,
lenses too. I'll just take a step back. Are you shooting one wide the whole time? Are you doing 50s, 24s? What do you?
so the Komodo isn't traditionally a full frame lens, but if you use the Metabone speed booster on it
Metabones.
can
Yeah.
shoot
Okay.
full frame 6K.
Okay. Wow.
So we were shooting full frame. Um, and I can't remember the exact, it was the 6K 2:1. So it's like where it has the tiny little bars on the top and bottom, but it's not, the 239 or anything. It's got,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what, I think I can't remember the exact
285.
aspect ratio, but yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so we were shooting at full frame. The only thing with the full frame is when you start to stop down on the lens, you do get vignetting on the side. So, but we
Mm.
tried to keep it around 2.8, never to go too much more open than that.
Okay.
Then it gets a little, so
Yeah.
yeah, kind of kept it around 2.8 for the most part. Yeah, and then for night stuff, we love our Quasar tubes. So
Okay.
we have these tube lights, most of them are RGB lights. And we still might
Great.
use, some sort of aperture light with some CTO on it just to bring it in. But those quasars, they just move so quick, and I just like the quality of light that comes from them. You don't really have to do too much diffusing on them because they're already pretty soft already. So, and then we can shape things, we can hide them pretty easily too. We can rig them to things without worrying about, yeah, it's so.
Mm.
A lot of the quasar tubes at night. Plus, sometimes we'd have a big light source depending on what the shot was.
So you had everything you needed. So you're shooting 6K. So you got some serious file sizes, probably.
Yeah, the Komodo's not depending on so a Komodo has LQ, MQ, and HQ,
Okay.
and I made the mistake of shooting HQ one time, and we like ran out of footage after like 3 minutes,
Yeah.
and then,
I bet.
that wasn't that shoot, but that was a few shoots ago. But then people are like, yeah, there's never like that good of a reason to shoot HQ, like unless it's for some reason you need that much detail for a VFX thing or something like that. But not here. And then MQ would shoot a little bit depending on the lights and how much light was in the shot and everything. But for the most part, it was LQ. So like we probably, I would say like pretty standard for our movies. We end up right around 8 terabytes of footage at the end.
Okay.
It's like usually it never goes
Okay.
wildly one
It's
way
not
or
bad.
the other. No, there was one shoot where we tried two cameras. I don't think I'd ever do that again, but we ended up with like almost double that, 16 terabytes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of two cameras after that. I was like, I
All right.
like focusing on one shot, getting that shot, loving that shot, and moving to the next. So yeah, the I understand why people have to use it and everything, but that one, that specific experience, I was decided after that to go back to one camera.
So now that we lost all the audience because we started talking technical, no, we're still here. We're still here with Bruce Wemple, and we're talking about his film Capture. And we're going deep into tech stuff here for all you horror fans. But we'll get back to the horror. So that all said and done, you cut it together yourself there. You did the whole deal with it. Tell me then, did you get everything you wanted? Oh, I'll get to that later, I guess. My question then is, at this point, you're done. It's ready to go. Did I see you at a premiere on a Friday the 13th?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
that was
that.
awesome.
I
That was
love that.
awesome.
I love that. So then you're premiering it. How did everything go? Did the response was there? How did everything go once you released this thing?
It was great. So yeah, I think the movie came out VOD like the Monday after that, I believe. So it was Friday the 13th. That was upstate, so it was great because there's people in the audience that recognize some of like the bar that we shot at and stuff. So that was
Cool.
fun. And it was like I wouldn't call it friends and family. There were a lot of friends and family there, but we ended up it was a local theater. We ended up having enough people where we actually had two theaters showing the movie simultaneously just because we had the
Okay.
numbers for it.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up, because I've seen the movie, kind of going between theaters, and so did our
That's cool. Watching the
producer and the
audience,
lead
right? Watching the
actor would just
yes.
like kind of sneak. It's also a dinner theater, so like I go back to the bar, grab a beer, go to one theater, then sneak into the other theater and see how it was. So it was a good time. It was a good time. The response seemed really strong.
Now, when you watch your stuff in there, and do you watch the audience or are you watching the film?
So it's hard. Probably more the audience, but like
Yeah.
there is a feeling you can get, even if your eyes are on the screen, you can feel the room a little bit, I think anyway. Like I've been in rooms, I'm like, this isn't working the way I thought it
Yeah.
was."
This is not working right.
This didn't feel that way. This felt pretty good. I mean, there's a lot. It's this type of horror, I think, plays really well in that like a dark room with a crowded crowd of people. Just
Sure.
the tension, like the creaky footsteps, and just the jump scares and all of that. It's just it's like my favorite part of going to the movie, especially the horror movie, is like that moment. Even if it's a cheap jump scare, I'm not saying necessarily this,
Yeah.
but like that feeling of everyone just like white knuckling it against the chairs until whatever pops out at them. So it felt really good. It felt really good.
Good. So you had this. So then the question is, did all said and done, were you able to capture everything you wanted? I know you were talking about you're in New York. You're not terribly far from Amityville, my favorite haunted house that we talk about on this show all the time. You had things like you're talking about Japanese remakes and haunted house, and this is found footage. And did you capture, no pun intended, all of those things in this film when you were all said and done, and it's on demand now, and you sit back, anytime I make something, or anyone that makes film and videos, we love it, then we look at it, and we hate it later, and we just never make up our mind, and we go back and forth on it. Did it get everything you wanted out of this?
Yeah, what's the expression? It's never as good as the dailies, but never as bad as the first cut.
Okay.
Like,
I like
yeah,
that.
and I'm like this was one of those that like it took massaging because it's a series of like very extended tension sequences.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you need people. So like I had demoed it. So back in like November of 20, so we shot summer of 24, this movie. So it was not last summer, summer before that. And then November, I had a bunch of people from the crew back upstate, and we actually the same theater. He just let me borrow the theater to show some of the crew just to watch the movie, and it was great. But like, yeah, it needed the stress test.
Yeah. Sure.
What works? Is this moment a second too long? What is or what works is working, and what doesn't work, why isn't working? And there was, I think it was actually kind of dialing a couple things down. There was a scene, I mentioned this earlier, but um, there was a scene in the movie that we just completely got rid of, and we had to figure out a way to kind of relay that information outside of that. So we had a scene that we had shot and everything where there was a neighbor who kept on walking her dog through the woods in the backyard of this house. And Eventually, she chases down this neighbor to get more info, and it's basically a big exposition dump, kind of around the time where you would expect that exposition dump to happen in this kind of
Right.
movie. So the neighbor gives a bunch of information that's helpful and everything. And I showed it to some people, and this all had the same feeling. It stopped. It was a fine scene, but it just stopped the movie in its tracks. Like it had
Okay.
so much
Yeah.
fear, momentum, and as
Yeah.
soon as she's out of the house, there's a feeling of like safety that's not really working, and also it just we're getting a lot of it. It just it just stopped the movie. So we're like, okay, we take it out, but there was some important info in there that we needed to get. So when you watch the movie, there's a moment where she watches some footage of her dad busting into the attic,
Yep.
and the scene ends with him killing her mom.
Yeah.
So that scene was always in the movie. There's a lot of dialogue that we added in post to that scene because you can't see their faces. Not a lot, but like maybe four
Mm.
or five lines because you can't see their faces in that scene that we was just whatever the absolute necessary info from that exposition dump was moved over into that scene.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so that was like the biggest change. In terms of like there was nothing that like I left, I'm like, oh, I wish we had shot that or anything. That didn't really happen. It was really just figuring out, how to keep that tension up, how to keep the fear up, how to keep
Yeah.
the audience's interest.
Did you have to do a lot of reshoots or anything?
No reshoots.
Okay, good. Nice.
There are a couple. Maybe it's not reshoots, but I always there's a couple inserts always that like
Yeah.
uh, I
It's
always
never perfect. It's never done. It's just
well
it's
I always save because I hate doing it
no,
on
I
set
know.
because it takes way too much time. But
I know.
any hand holding a phone, I
Okay.
always just bank on doing that later, and I'll just like grab my wife or something and be
Yep.
like, "You just hold this phone for a
There
second."
you go.
Like,
Yes,
I
I do
hate
that
when
too.
we spend an hour on set. Like, someone's like, "Well, we got to get the text message right," and like,
Yeah.
we
We'll
gotta,
do this later.
yeah. And it's like we have a crew where this is expensive time for us right now. We're
Yes.
wasting it all on
Time is money, people. Let's
getting a
go.
phone shot. So I'm like, I'll just do that in my basement. And this is my basement right now, by the way. But like, I'll just do that later exactly because I end up reshooting anyway because there's like always some word that's not quite right or something, or I gotta
Of
get
course.
rid of a Wi-Fi signal on it or something on the
Of
phone. So
course.
that kind of stuff I'll save, but I don't know if that's reshooting or just little, additional shooting or whatever you want to call it.
For sure. Little things like that.
Yeah.
So you've done some other, we talked about creature features, monster stuff, right? So you've got a bunch of, let's see, we have what was the retreat, right?
So yeah,
Is that?
Monstrous was that movie I mentioned that was like the first time like we did a creature feature and then
Yep.
we got connected at that point it was Uncork'd and they're like, "Oh, we can collaborate on more movies now." So and we had some other outside stuff coming in. So yeah, that was a Bigfoot movie. Again, that was all self-financed. That was one of those,
That's awesome.
we just rounded up whatever we had lying around.
Whatever you
I
can.
was living in
Yeah.
Brooklyn. I'm literally on my roof in Brooklyn making a Bigfoot suit. Like there was like clothes hangers there, and I was hanging.
We're gonna need photos of this. Yeah.
Yeah, anyone would walk up there and just see this like big hairy
Yeah.
suit hanging from the
I love it.
clothesline up there, and I
You
was
still
like,
have it? You still have it?
the Bigfoot suit.
Oh, it's gone.
There's a movie called Dawn of the Beast, which also has Bigfoot in it.
Okay.
That movie ruined the suit. Like by the
Oh,
end of that movie,
it's
there were
gone.
like we were shooting around tears down the side.
Yeah.
It was just that was it. So we got two movies out of the suit though.
Okay.
So I'll take
Pretty
it.
good.
But
It's pretty good.
yeah,
So you have one film that I love because I love the story of the Wendigo.
yeah. So
So
that was the immediate one after Monstrous. So we did
yes.
Monstrous, and then we're like, okay, what's after that? And we're like Wendigo, and I'd always been a fan too. It
Oh,
just
I love that
yeah.
story.
And there's so much to do with it just because it is very psychological. So
Okay.
there's a monster built in, and everyone. I don't know if everyone knows, but everyone knows that like there's different versions. There's the White Walkers, and then there's
Yeah.
the big antlered spirit, and then it
Sure.
also just messes with your head a lot. So there's a lot of stuff to do. So the movie. We kind of started like, okay, what would that be like? And so the movie is basically two guys go winter backpacking and they encounter a Wendigo or encounter, have a fight with a Wendigo, and then one survives and the other doesn't, and it kind of turns into this weird survival movie in
Mm,
the winter and like out in the snow,
yeah.
where people have already gotten lost. Like we were shooting the high peaks in the Adirondacks, and like people have
Yeah.
gone missing in that area and just
Sure.
vanished. So it was kind of survival movie, and the guy's kind of like losing his mind and seeing this antlered creature up on the hill, mountaintops, and fighting these crawling,
Mm.
there we did it, we had a full rubber suit for the guy, and we had a friend who just like had this great all fours walk that he would just
That's
like
awesome.
sprint on all fours
Yeah.
in the snow. It was attack anytime you're shooting in the snow, it gets pretty brutal,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that was a great time. Very, very proud of that movie. And then we finished those two, and then I think it was actually I can't remember. It might have been the distributor who pitched it, but don't quote. I'm not 100% on that, but doing a Bigfoot versus Wendigo movie.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
So
I don't know.
that one we got ourselves pumped for. It's called Dawn of the Beast, and the
Okay.
reason we got ourselves pumped is we were working with this one makeup artist at the time. He's now on Walking Dead and
Really?
the other
That's great.
one of the other big effect shows and stuff, but he's amazing.
Okay.
And we're like, all right, let's see what we can do with this. So we just went all out, like we're just treating this as the classic, six college kids go to a cabin, get caught in the
And
middle
they
of
all
this
die.
caught in the middle of chaos. It's a slasher. We just like this is a drive-in, like an
They have
old
sex with each other,
drive-in.
they get drunk and they die. Yes, love it.
Exactly. So
Let's
we're
go.
like, we
Let's
did it.
go.
We're all the nuance and character building stuff we were doing with the last two movies,
Yeah.
done with
No,
that.
we don't need that.
Yeah, this is just a balls to the wall,
Slasher. I love that.
drive-in slasher
I
with
love
Bigfoot
that.
and the Wendigo. I mean, by the end, Bigfoot's like throwing these Wendigos into trees, and they're getting, he's stomping on their heads, crushing their skulls, and
Oh my God.
yeah. So that movie was just like we just leaned into how silly it was, and I had a
Have
blast.
fun
It was
with it.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Uh,
you've got the North Witch is the
Northwich,
newer one, right?
yeah, that's the movie we made before this one, and
Okay.
that was written by a friend of mine, Anna Shields, and who also wrote Monstrous. And yeah, it's a very similar premise, but it's five women that go out winter backpacking in Canada. We shot it on state, but it was supposed to be Canada, looking for a place called the Barren Cabin, which is this cabin that they say burned down, but
Disappear or something, right?
people
Yeah.
still see it, and
Right.
so they go out looking for it, and it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well
No.
for
So
anyone.
I haven't seen it yet, but I was getting the trailer wise, I was getting like the vibes of the Descent,
Yeah.
maybe kind
Oh
of like
yeah.
that's what I was
We
kind of
talked a
feeling
lot.
that
Yeah,
a
when
little
Anna was
bit.
writing
Yeah.
it, she was talking a lot about the descent and that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
And
Well,
it's
that's
like
great.
she was pumped about it too, because like other than Descent, there's not like a hugely long list of like groups of women horror movies.
Right.
You'll get one heroine,
Right.
obviously, but like,
Right.
you have several that are all like they're none of them in the movie are like, bimbos or, kind of that kind of thing. They're all
Right.
like backpackers that are going and
Yeah.
kind of badasses that fall apart. So it's
That movie,
cool.
I haven't seen that movie in a long time. So that's awesome. Well, that's wonderful. You've got a good portfolio going. That's really good. I'm glad to hear. I'm going to start watching more of these. So here's the question then. Now everybody asks me this, of course, and I can never answer it. Do you have a favorite horror film? And how did you get going into? You've been watching the scary stuff forever. Is it a new thing for you? Like, what is your world of horror like?
So I think what it comes down to for me, like I mentioned earlier, is yeah, there's two big categories and then tons of other categories of horror movies. But yeah, like I said, the horror movies I love that I'll watch over and over again because they're so entertaining. And I think that it's your Evil Dead 2s,
Mm-hmm.
like you said,
Mm-hmm.
but especially Evil Dead 2 for me. I would say that's the big one.
Okay.
Halloween is a big one
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Love
Yeah.
it. Love it.
Um, so those are like really high up on the list. And then there's, the ones that I don't love watching anymore, but
Yeah.
they're, like I even remember a kid watching Blair Witch Project that first time and just being like, I didn't enjoy 1 second of that. It
Oh,
just-
really?
I did, but
Okay.
I was
Okay.
genuinely terrified. I mean, I thought I was maybe
You were
what,
okay. Good. You were terrified by it the
11 or
first
12, and
time
I
you
was just
saw
like,
it.
I don't know if that was real or not. Like it
See.
was still
Okay.
that time where like, and like you go home and look it up, and there was the website that had all the
Yes.
articles and everything, and you're just like, but like, yeah, it would stick with you. yeah, I definitely, yeah, I'm trying to think like what would be like the most, I mean,
So
those are
haunted
like
house stuff. Do you like Amityville Horror? Do you
Amityville
like
Horror is great.
Conjuring? Do you like those kind of films at all?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Conjuring. Seen that a bunch of
House
times.
on Haunted Hill or
Yeah.
the Haunting, I guess the old 60s one. I mean
The
the
Haunting.
old
Yeah, that's great. The
yeah.
Innocence is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big, yeah. I mean, yeah, those are the classics. I, on like the Conjuring side, I always like shout out because I don't think the movie got enough credit, but like I've seen The Woman in Black so many, the Daniel Radcliffe version. Have you seen, not that there's a
Is
British
that
version, but
the newer the it's it
it's like
recent
2010, but
Oh, no, I haven't seen that one. Okay. No, I have not.
really like it's like in that Conjuring type movie, but it's just
Okay.
well done. Like it, like the execution,
Okay.
like I can't, there's nothing about the premise that's like particularly new, but it's in terms of just guy walking through a haunted house and getting scared over and over and over again. It's
Yeah.
really well done. But yeah, I mean, and then, you know, The Ring was definitely like that's the movie that I think like for me formatively it was just like, oh, like
Okay.
this is
So
I
The
mean,
Ring, I remember not liking it a lot, but then
really?
watching it again years ago, we did an episode on it.
Yeah.
What messed me up though was the girl in the closet at the beginning when they open the closet, she's sitting there, her face like I can't get that lives rent free in my brain now, and I can't get that image out of my head. Oh God. What about I got kind of a 13 Ghosts vibe a little bit in
I could
this
see
film
that. I could see
where
that.
because
Yeah.
you're able to see the people through the viewfinder and no one else can see them. That kind of reminded me of that a little bit. I don't know if
I
you
could
thought of
see
that when you were
that.
doing that or not, but
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't think of 13 Ghosts while doing it, but yeah, definitely. Psycho, I remember that always freaked me. I haven't
mm,
revisited. I need to do more Hitchcock lately,
yeah, yeah,
but Psycho is one of those movies that just I keep thinking about certain sequences and that now I keep going back to, and especially
sure.
How to Shoot a House. But yeah, I mean there's in the Conjuring universe, I was thinking about this because I was talking to someone else, and I was like, I think Annabelle Creation's a really underrated movie. Have you seen that one?
I think after the first three or so, I think I just lost it.
Revisit Creation. So that's the one
Okay,
that
Annabelle creation. All
was
right.
directed by David F. Sandberg, who did
Okay.
Lights Out, and
Okay.
that was his follow-up to it.
Okay.
And then he started doing superhero movies and stuff after that. But um, really strong stuff. Really strong.
Okay.
I know, like, yeah, Sinister is the one that like
Oh, that's a good one.
tightest tied one to this movie there could possibly
So
be.
there you go. That's a really good one. Yeah, Sinister. That gave me. I thought about that when I was, because that's the one with Ethan Hawke and he's
Yep.
watching the videotapes, right? So
Yep.
that I forgot to mention that at the beginning here. Definitely sinister feeling in this film too, right?
I would
Yes.
say that's the
Yes.
tightest to this movie probably you can get if you're doing a double
Yeah.
feature and you want it's Sinister. Yeah, I mean that movie is just and like so much of
That's a
that
good
movie like
one.
is Ethan Hawke walking through a dark house and that's it. Like
Yeah.
works
Yeah.
and yeah, it's terrifying.
Yep. No,
Uh,
that is that's a good one. That's a great comparison. I forgot about that.
yeah, yeah. That's that movie also. Yeah, that stuck with that's again. That's firmly in the category of sticks with me, got under my skin. Think of that movie a lot. You know.
Heck yeah. So what's next? What are you working on? What do you want to do? What do we what are we going to be able to see soon from you?
I'm hoping to get in production on something this summer.
Okay.
And another horror. Still in the not even in the pre-production, still in very much the outline to writing area of it. But I
Okay.
definitely like I've done a couple movies that. So what I really liked about Capture is we found the location and we just like emphasized and made the most of that location. I really want to like
Yeah.
keep that spirit alive with whatever
Okay.
we're doing is like we just find the perfect place and lean into that. Because I've been in part of other productions where, we're shooting in 7, 8 different places and stuff.
Yeah.
Just can't
Yeah.
really
It's a
find it
lot.
as
It's a
much
lot.
there. If you don't have the time, especially at these kind of budgets we're working with, you don't have that much time. So there
Yeah.
is something about finding one amazing location and really leaning into that. And I think that's why so many horror movies do that. But that feels really exciting to me. And like beyond that, just, getting in there and trying to scare people. But
Love it.
but yeah, hopefully this summer.
Good.
Did a yeah, the because it's very proud to capture, and in between then I'll do Christmas movies here and there just
Okay.
for keep things keep things
Got to
going.
keep the balance and the equilibrium.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But I'm ready. I'm ready
Yes.
back now. Capture's out. I'm ready to jump back into the bloodbath of
All right.
movies.
I
So
love that. I love that. Well, Bruce Wemple was our guest today on he's talking about his new film Capture. I saw it. I liked it a lot. That's why we're talking about it. I thought it was great. Haunted house kind of movie with a lot of different things we discussed in there. So, Bruce, tell everybody who's listening right now, where can they keep up with you? Where can they keep with all the stuff you're making, all the stuff? How can they keep up?
Instagram, that's pretty much it. I'm
Okay.
not even super popular on Instagram, but Bruce M. Wemple. I try to push as much stuff as I can on there. But yeah, that's it. Bruce M. Wemple on Instagram.
Love it. You guys know us. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. You love it, right? We would appreciate that. TheScaryMovieProject.com is the website. At The Scary Movie Project, Instagram and Facebook. Email us if you want to talk about more haunted house movies, more stuff from Bruce. Let's do it. TheScaryMovieProject at gmail.com. So, guys, thank you very much, Bruce, again. And we will see you all next time.
Thank you.
The Scary Movie Project podcast. Learn more at thescarymovieproject.com.